and we'll click the button over here, and then it logs my action down here. Hey guys, welcome to another JamieBot tutorial. In this one we're going to be talking about the Ion button, and this is for Ionic version 4, and we're going to be getting the button working on our own blank site, and we're going to be exploring things like changing the color, getting the button to so you click on it, it does something, like log something, or like whatever you want it to do, basically calls a function. And yeah, we're going to be getting into all that coming up. Oh, and first off, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for more videos like this. I do frequent content on things like Angular, anything revolving around web development. So yeah, just subscribe and you'll see more content from me coming up, and I'll see you guys in future videos. But for now, we're looking at the Ion button. Okay, so this is my own blank site right here, JamieBot blank project, and this is freshly generated in Ionic 4. So we're just going to be going over to the Ionic docs and grabbing their very first example of the default button and then getting that to work on our own blank site. Make sure that there's nothing else that you need to do. Okay, so the syntax is just like that, Ion button, just as default. Let's check and make sure that that works. Alright, so the page is reloaded and here's our button, it says default. Clicks and it animates just fine. Alright. Let's look at the next most important thing you'd probably want to do, which is make it so that you click on the button and it does something. So to do that, you use the Angular event click, use the parentheses syntax to do that. So on click, we call a function, and let's just call it myAction. Okay, we can pass parameters here if we want, but I'm not going to. And inside of the TypeScript for that same component, I'm just going to add an event here, and it's going to be called same exact thing, myAction. And then inside of there, I'm just going to log something. So console.log, and then I'm going to log myAction. Okay, so let's go back over to our app. By the way, saving the file auto-reloads it in Ionic, and we'll click the button over here, and then it logs myAction down here. Alright, but that's not all we can do. There's a bunch of other cool stuff. You can see that here they're configuring the colors. Let's try doing one of those. I'll show you, by the way, how to define those colors. So I'm just going to go back into HTML and then add primary to the color. Alright, so we can see that it's still blue. Now, why is that? Well, if we go and take a look at the themes file, it's called variable.scss. There's a bunch of code in here for like defining the colors. The first one is primary, so you can see that it's blue. There's a bunch of other stuff in here for like just different variations of it. We'll go into that in another video, but basically the primary color is already by default used on a button. So if you want to change the color of the button to something other than the blue, then you should specify either secondary or tertiary. Let's choose tertiary because that's a nice contrast. And so I'm just going to write tertiary here and then save that. And then now the button's purple. Alright, now there's more stuff that we can do. For instance, this expand. So there's full and then there's block. I'll show you the difference between them. These are just different like stylings that you can do. So I've said expand equals full. You'll see that it takes up the entire page. But notice how the corners are square. That's the difference between full and then the other one, which is called block. So full does not have rounded corners, but block should have rounded corners. So there we go, we see it's exactly the same except for has rounded corners. Alright, and there's even more, like we can set the shape to be round if we wanted to. And the syntax for this is a lot different than it was in Ionic 3. There we can see that the button is like fully round now, or like it's not like a circle, but it's rounded. And it's important to note that you can stack these. Like you can see that I have both expand and round on there, which is why it's like taking up the full width, and it also has rounded corners, like fully rounded corners. Okay, and then there's also this fill property. I'll show you. There's a bunch of different properties you can put in here. There's clear, outline, and solid. So let's try clear first. Alright, so this one is kind of what it sounds like. It's clear, but when you hover over it, it will still highlight it. And then when you click it, it has that cool like opacity animation. So that's very nice. I'll show you outline next. All these are pretty well named, pretty intuitive, so this one's just going to put an outline around the button. So there we go. That's outline, and then solid. I'm pretty sure that's just the default one. Yeah, so there we go. We're just back to the default. So if you don't want to style your button in terms of fill, just omit the fill. Alright, and then there are different sizes. There's small, default, and large. Okay, so I'll just show you that. Size of small. Let's do that one first. Alright, so this one's a little bit smaller than it was before. We already know what default looks like, and then we can try large to compare that. Alright, so that is a very large button, as we probably imagined it would be. Alright, that's the basics of like configuring how it looks. Now you can also put icons in a button, and just to show you that, let's just copy this example right here. I'm going to put this on 2 lines so you can kind of read it a little bit better. Alright, there we go. So we just have a star at the beginning of the button. We just put it before the text of the button. If we wanted it after, we could put it after. So you can see it nicely puts it right here. This is a big improvement from Ionic 3. The syntax is just a lot easier because before you had to specify it was an ion icon button, but now it just figures that out, so that's really nice. Another property of the button is disabled. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to disable the button based on a variable in the TypeScript. I'm going to make it so that when you click on the button, it disables the button itself, so you can only click it once. So the way we do that is we bind to that disabled attribute, and we do that using the square bracket syntax. And then here is the name of the variable which you'd like to bind to. And then over here in the TypeScript for this component, the home page, I'm going to say make a variable is disabled and set it equal to false initially. Okay, and then when we click the button, we're going to set it equal to true. So when you click the button, it disables it, and then you can't click it again. Alright, so here's our button. We click it, and now it's disabled, so I'm unable to click it anymore. Oh, and it's important to note that we didn't have to bind to this disabled attribute. We could have just left it like this, disabled, or hard-coded true in there, but this will just make it so the button is disabled no matter what. I'm not sure why you'd want to do that, but that's at least how you would do it. Alright, another attribute of the button is the href, and the href is, it kind of makes the button like a link, which is pretty awesome. So I'm going to remove that disabled and then instead put an href. And you can bind to a variable as well here if you wanted it to change using the same syntax, like that, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to hard code that when you click the button, it goes to /about. So this is like a relative path on the page. So it'll stay on the website I'm on, and then it will navigate to /about. So right now I'm on /home, and then when I click it, it goes to /about. But I don't really have that page set up. I'll have a different tutorial on how to like set up routing and that sort of thing. But for now, I'm just explaining like how to navigate with the href. So we can also put in an absolute URL here. So I could say https://jamiebot.com. So this is my website. So if I wanted clicking the button to go there, that's what I would do. So when we click on it, it'll change the URL to jamiebot.com. Oh, and if you wanted the button to open that link in a new tab, instead I would not use href. Instead, I would just make it so that my action opened that page. Alright, so I've called window.open with the URL I want to open, and then _blank as the target. So the target is referring to like how you want to open the link, and _blank means that you want it to open in a new tab, basically. Going back to our site here. I'm going to close this, and then when I click on it, it should open in a new tab instead of like changing this URL. So that's great, and that's how you do it. That's how I would do it, at least. All right, another attribute is the strong attribute, and that's just kind of what it sounds like. It uses the strong tag, which is like bold. So here I can just say strong. You can specify a boolean in there, true, but there's no need to do that. If you just put strong, then it will work. So now you can see it's using a bold font. If we inspect the button and then click on the Ion button and search for font, you'll notice now that it has font weight 700, and that's just because of what we just did. I'm just proving to you that it does have the strong tag on it, or it's styled as a strong element or bold. So yeah, that's strong tag. Alright, and one last thing I want to show you is if you want to add any additional styling to it, I would give the button a class. So I'll give a class like this. Class is my action button, or whatever you want to call it. It's customary to use shish kebab case, or just have dashes between it. And then over here you say my action button. This is in the SCSS for the same component. And then in here I can just say like float right, we'll say. Okay, and that will make the button float to the right hand side of the screen. I guess I should probably take off the expand property because it's kind of messing with that, but I mean to have it small and floated to the right. But yeah, I have another video on CSS and SCSS, so be sure to check that out if you're more interested in like what else you can do, but I'm just showing you this is how you add custom styles to that particular button. Anyways, thanks for watching, you guys. Definitely leave a like if you did enjoy this video. Also subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. And with that, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.